Dear students and respected viewers, Assalamu alaikum. Today it is 22 of July 2020, and our topic chapter is post-modern period, in which we talk about the Sangam age, Sangam literature, early South kingdoms, and we also talked about the Pandavas, Cheras, Cholas, their administration, life of the people, trade, religion, and we also talked about the northwest, the Indo-Greeks, and what they were called. And it was necessary to repeat so that you will also, my students, you will also get motivated for the next learning. And today our topic is Pahalwas. The Pahlavas, or simply they are called as Parthians. Today we have to talk about them, for how much time, where from they are, where they from where, and in which period they ruled India, which was their capital, who was their powerful king, and what are the different territories they included into their kingdom, and how they got power, as well as who defeated them. Today we have to talk about them. We have to talk also about the Shakas. We have to talk about the Kushanas, and we have to talk about the trade, art and scriptures. This is what through which we have to go today. If my students, anybody will ask you who were Pahalwas, simply it's a simple question, and it must be asked after the chapter. We will complete the chapter. You should be aware about it. They are of Greek origin. That means they were not Indians, they were not Asians, but they were from Greek, and they lived in Iran. Simply from Greek, then they came in Iran, they lived in Iran, and their powerful and most famous king was Gondom of Hermes, which had a kingdom which included Afghanistan, Peshawar, Gandhara. All these places he included into his kingdom, and his capital was Taxila. Now, there is on our book a little bit written about the Pahalwas, and the next who came are the Shakas. These people came from Central Asia, northern Iran. They established their rule first in a part of Gandhara, but later moved to Kathiawar, Surastara, and Malwa. In other words, first these people are from Central Asia, that is from Iran, and when they came here, they started their rule in Gandhara. But my dear students, remember, when we are talking about India, it is not only India which is today present in front of us or in which we are living, but it is a large and a vast area. It is called as Indian subcontinent, that is India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Bangladesh, and all these countries were in the Indian subcontinent, and it was called as India. The most powerful king was Rudra Daman, and their Shakas king, one of their best kings was Rudra Daman. These Shakas were often at war with the Satavahanas, and this man Rudra Daman, first he ruled from 130 to 150 AD. That means his rule remained for 20 years. And this man made his capital Ujjain. Now, he engraved a long inscription on the rock in Sanskrit in 150 AD. But these people, these Shakas, they have at that time, before the thousands of years, have made changes in the administration. Those changes are also present in our period. For example, what are those changes? If anybody will ask, what are those changes? This man or these Shakas, they divided. First, they introduced Sat Rapa system of government was introduced by Shakas. Now the question arises, what do we mean by the Sat Rapa's government? Sat Rapa system of government. Simply, it means when the government or the state itself was divided into the provinces. Their empire was divided into provinces. Head of province was army commander. Shakas were defeated by Chandragupta II in the 4th century AD. That means it is also called as decentralization of powers. In other words, no doubt there the head of the state was king, but what he did, he has divided whole state into provinces. For example, as in India, the whole India itself is divided into its states, and every state have a CM. These are the other dynasty or the other empire who established their rule in India, but we have to also talk and deal about them. The Kushanas belonged to the nomadic Yu-Chai tribe of China. Very clearly and simply written on our book. And they were driven out of their homeland in the 1st century AD by the Hunas. Simply, they were driven out of their homeland, or they were exiled from their homeland. When such an incident happened with them, what they did, they defeated the Indo-Greeks, the Pahlavas and the Shakas. That means these people were very strong. That is why they were able to defeat first Indo-Greeks, then Pahlavas and then Shakas. All of them we talked before Kushanas. And there Kushanas, they have also a powerful man and a good king. His name was Kanishka, who established his rule around 78 AD. The greatest king Kanishka succeeded to the throne. That means he came in power in 78 AD. He extended his empire to a large extent. But I have not written here the places, those places which he included into his empire. For example, he also includes large parts of Central Asia, Kashmir, Punjab, Sindh and Gujarat. The capital of his empire was Purushpura, modern Peshawar, which is in Pakistan. That means at that time, during the rule of Kanishka, Kashmir was an independent state. It became clear here. Number 2, he has extended his rule to Central Asia, that means Iran, from Iran to Sindh and Gujarat, which is presently in India. From this point, it becomes clear. Now, from this territorial point, we can understand that this man was very powerful. But being so powerful, good, he was also interested, or he got influenced from the Buddhist religion, right? And for this, he donated large sum of money for building Buddhist monasteries. It was during his rule that 4th Buddhist Council was held at Kashmir. That means Kashmir at that time have also a great educational importance or religious importance. That is why such a council held in Kashmir. Now, as we talked about the administration, about the life, religion, and other things, we have also talked about the trade. From this point, it will become clear that how much India was good at that moment, or whether it was in a bad situation. When we are talking about the trade, in the field of trade, all the things came like as crafts, trade, import, export. Trade, there was a considerable growth in trade during this period. That means trade relationships as well as export as well as import and other manufacturing at that time. If it was not the manufacturing from the machinery, but however through the hands, the making of different goods and items, it was at a good or a considerable speed. And it is very much clear that it had spread across the Roman Empire, that means Europe, Central Asia, Indian subcontinent, and Southeast India. Silk Route. The famous Silk Route came into being during this period. The Indo-Aryans and the Kushanas controlled the route. That means both Indo-Aryans and the Kushanas controlled this Silk Route. That means the people traveling other things and keeping or carrying the goods through the Silk Route, it was under the Indo-Aryans and the Kushanas. Now, when we are talking about the trade, we have to talk about the things which the India were exporting. Products like rice, wheat, pearls, silk, textiles, goods, and precious stones were exported. Now, at this moment, India was exporting more than importing, because here we have not read about the importing. That means it was exporting a large, which we have also read in the previous lectures. When we are talking about it, then we can say that at that time India was very strong and it had a good economy as compared to present economy, because we are importing more than exporting. And when all these things were exporting, at this period of time, Taxila, Ujjain, and Mathura became big trade centers. It is very much common when we people have a good level of trade or good things to export. Simply, the different towns and cities become the centers of trade, or we will call them as trade centers. Now, art and sculptures. When we are talking about any kingdom, then that kingdom have the different things, like as when we are talking about their administration, about their economy, about their army, then we are also talking about their architecture, which comes in under the headings of art and sculptures. New sculptures came up between the contacts of Indians and the Greeks. For example, if I have knowledge which is of 10 sentences and the another man have the knowledge about a particular thing, that will comprise 15 sentences. When we will combine the knowledge of both the persons, it will become 25 sentences. That means when we will contact with each other, when we will try to get in relationship with one another, then it will enhance our knowledge. Simply, when the Indians came in contact with the Greeks, they have combined. It became the combination of two cultures, and this has influenced art and architecture, and Gandhara became center of art. Simply, as I told you, the people who came to rule here as the Pahalwas, they also came from the Gandhara. They established their kingdom there, and simply it became a center of art. The combination of Indian and the Greek became the hallmark of Gandhara school of art. That means the school which was established there, that became this Indian and Greek architecture became the hallmark of Gandhara school of art. Mathura school of art also flourished during this period because other kingdoms also established their capitals near such places like as Ujjain and Mathura. This school produced sculptures of Buddha, Mahavira and Kanashika because Buddhism was famous at that moment and it was very popular. The standing Buddha and the headless statue of King Kanashika are two most important pieces of art of the school. That is, these are the famous statues throughout the world, but these are made by the Mathura school of art. That is why these are called as two most important pieces of art of this school, which school? That is Mathura school of art.